Sanders releasing a Green New Deal plan today. It's the most expensive proposal from the Democratic field yet. NBC's Shaquille Brewster, who covers the Sanders campaign, is with us now from Chicago. And Shaq, what is Sanders trying to do with this big climate change plan?
He's really trying to set the field and set the pace in this Democratic primary field. He's in California right now. He's about to have a town hall meeting in Chico, California, and he's going to lay out this massive $16.3 trillion climate change plan. Now, it's something that I'm told he's been working on and his campaign has been working on for several months now, and it reads about 12,000 words, so it's an extensive document. Just to kind of list through some of the highlights, Senator Sanders wants to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, and that would mean setting a goal, committing the United States to a goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2030 or by 2050. By 2030, he wants to be 100% clean renewables in the transportation and electricity sector. He wants to also create 20 million new jobs. Now, this is something that separates his plan from some of the others because his goes beyond rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement and focusing on the specific targets and goes more on trying to restructure the whole system. So he wants to create 20 million new jobs to help things like retrofitting, to help infrastructure. He's going to fund elements that include clean new vehicles and electric cars and go beyond what we normally hear. I'll tell you that this is something that Senator Sanders has made a priority, even going back to his 2016 presidential campaign. He was something that he listed as one of the major national security concerns facing the United States. He's trying to take the lead in this 2020 field and show how serious he is about it. He started the day today in Paradise, California. Of course, that's the community that was affected by the wildfire, the Camp Fire that killed about 85 people back in the fall. He said that fire was an example of the crisis that we're facing right now. His campaign saying they wanted to go there to highlight the seriousness of this climate change issue.
So, Shaq, the big question, this costs $16 trillion. How's he going to pay for it?
It's a lot of money, $16 trillion. He's going to pay for it, and the plan does list several different funding methods in there. Part of them is a tax increase on the wealthy. Another part is the new revenue that you'll get from 20 million jobs that he wants to create in it. But one thing that I found unique is that he wants to pay for this in part by taking on the fossil fuel industry. He says he's not only going to take away their subsidies, which is something that you hear, a proposal that you hear from other candidates in this field, but he also wants to go after them criminally and civilly in court. That's something that I spoke to an expert yesterday about, that idea of going after these fossil fuel companies in court, trying to get money from them to help combat the effects of climate change. And that's something that you're seeing from some states at this point and even some local cities. It's not having much success yet, but if you get that from a presidential level, it'll be interesting to see what kind of impact that can have.
Shaq, activists have been pushing Democrats to have a primary debate that just focuses on climate change. The DNC rejected that today. Why? What was that about?
Right. That's, it's very interesting. I'll start with climate change. If you talk to Democratic voters, and as I'm going across the country talking with voters, it's something that they list as one of their top concerns, top priorities. It's why you see Senator Sanders with this aggressive plan that we saw today. You see other candidates, Beto O'Rourke, Vice President Biden, it was his first plan. You see these big, bold plans to combat climate change, and that's a reflection and reaction to what you hear from many voters who see climate change as one of their signature issues. And there was the activists really tried, there was a push from activists to have a debate completely focused on the issues of climate change. If you watch the debates, you hear a lot of issues get smashed into that 2 hours. We go from immigration to healthcare reform to education. They wanted a full debate that focused completely on climate change. The DNC to date rejecting that. We'll see what happens beyond that. We see a lot of forums that other cable networks or that other groups have. So there may be an opportunity for candidates to talk about climate change in a concerted or one single setting. But it clearly won't be a formal debate that's sponsored by the DNC where you have all the candidates on stage talking to one another at one time.
Shaq, in Chicago, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You got it.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.